Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Boogaerts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. So hello. Well, in this episode, you've got me, and I want to talk about freedom. Freedom is one of my business values, which is like an exercise I did sometime in the last year about, what actually are my values of my business? You think about these things of all the large corporations that I've been in and worked in. They have these values and things, but I always thought, as like a solopreneur, why would I need those? But actually, I think they're really important. They can really drive you, and they can also really help you with your messaging about what your values are. And freedom is definitely one of them for me. And, when I think about freedom and what it really means to me is no limitations. I love that quote, the world is your oyster. And that's kind of what freedom really resonates with me. And it's about choice. It's about doing what you want to do. It's about living authentically. It's about running your business authentically. It's about giving yourself permission, right? And being an entrepreneur, and I think is giving yourself that. It's really giving yourself that freedom. And, you can choose your hours, who you work with, who you collaborate with, who your clients are, where you work, what tools you use, what tech you use, how you deliver your programs, how you run your business entirely, who you hire, like all the things. And I feel like freedom, like you have the freedom to do absolutely all of that. You have so much choice, and you get to decide. It's really within your control. And I think that is just something that is so cool about entrepreneurship, and something that I think a lot of us really strive for, and actually why we become entrepreneurs, because we want that freedom. And I know I definitely felt that when I quit my corporate job. I was like, oh yes, like I can't wait to have this freedom. And you may have heard this story before, but when I did quit, so I was a project manager, and I've been in the project management industry for 15 years. And my business coach was like, well, what are you doing with those project management skills? And because at the time I was a life coach, I was helping people with their confidence, which actually had a lot to do with freedom as well, because I was teaching people and coaching them to be confident within themselves, to give them the freedom to live their lives the way they want to live it, and to be truly authentic, and to really go after everything that you want in life. And so I was really passionate about that, because I know that I've done that a lot in my life. I've just been like, I want this. I'm going to go out for it. I'm going to go do it. And so I wanted to continue doing my business with that. But my business coach was like, yes, but you have these amazing skills that not many people have in the entrepreneur world. And it took me a long time to come to terms with that, to actually think, okay, do I want to use these skills, this like amazing superpower that I have in my business? And I was so resistant to it, because in the corporate world, I felt it was so restrictive. I didn't feel like I had that freedom in any way in my project management career in corporate. It was very much like, these are the processes. Some places I worked literally had an entire book. Like, it wasn't just an SOP. It was like a textbook on exactly how you ran everything. And it was really controlled. And, I have 10, 15 different certifications in project management, and they're all quite strict, being like, this is exactly how you do it. And it's good to have process 100%. I think it's good to follow that. But I found it, kind of restrictive, but it was also kind of good, being like, okay, these are my guardrails. This is where I work within. But there was so much toxicity in corporate in some of the corporate places that I worked, and people would have such opinions, or they would take the process and be like, no, it needs to be this way, it needs to be this way. And it was always this huge discussion. It was just like, oh, and by the end of it, I was just like, I just don't care. Just build the software. Because I worked in software development. And so it was like, just, whatever. Like I just, at the end of it, I kind of gave up on trying to be like, this is the process that I was taught. So this is what I'm trying to lead in my project management. And then to have people just constantly challenging it and arguing with it. And I was just like, oh my God, it was just so much. And so I didn't want to bring that toxicity into my own business. I didn't want to bring that same ick feeling that I left into my business. And I very much associated them, like project management, with that. And so I did a lot of internal work, and I did a lot of, like meditation and mindfulness and all the things to get myself to a place where it was like, okay, actually, I do have the freedom of choice here, right? I do get to choose how I want to do the project management in my business, and I focus on launching online programs. And so it's like, well, I can build that process myself. I can work with people, and I can change it, and I can adapt it. I have complete freedom of choice. And that really, liberated me and got me excited about bringing that into my business, which is when I pivoted it to be a launch manager and project manager that I am now. And yeah, so I feel like, in order to have this freedom in your business, you do need to make money. Of course, we all need to make money, and launching your program can really do this for you. And group programs can also give you more freedom because it frees up your time, right? You get, instead of doing the one-on-one, eventually like your calendar will be full, and you can do more group programs to work with many people at the same time. And this really can help to give you more freedom in your business. Because especially when you start out and you're doing, like, you're wearing all the hats, it doesn't really feel like you have that much freedom because you're doing absolutely everything and you're working way more than you thought you would. But eventually, as you do start launching and you do start doing these more group things and bigger things that have more people in them, you will give yourself more freedom, which is pretty awesome. I posted on a social media the other week. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And it was about this freedom. I was in a program, and we talked about that. We were talking about freedom and feeling that sense of freedom. And, when was a time in your life where you felt truly free? And in moments in your life, or when, your business is getting you down, or you feel like you're being burnt out, there's so many different things we can do to help with that. And sometimes, one thing that you could do is that you could take yourself back to that moment. Take yourself to that moment where you felt entirely free, and you can just go there and sort of, visualize it in your mind for a moment and see really what it does to your body. How does it reduce your stress levels? How does it kind of like, just feel it? And so this post I did was actually a picture of me, and I'm standing at Land's End in the UK. And it was like the very, like southeast corner. No, sorry, southwest corner, looking over the Pacific. And all there was left was like, on the other side of the water was Canada, basically. And so it was just, everything was so far. We were literally at Land's End, and there's this beautiful walk that you can do. And there's these little cottages, and it was just so wonderful. I spent a couple of days down there just being at Land's End and seeing this, then the amazing cliff drops that just like dove into the ocean. It was absolutely beautiful. And at that point in time in my life was when I decided to move back to Vancouver. So I'd been living abroad for 11 years, and I was living in London for 5 of those years. And I decided to move back home. And I remember being there, and yeah, I just felt this huge sense of freedom. I had just gotten out of a relationship that wasn't good for me. And I was really moving, my path I felt like was really set before me. And I just knew like that it was the right path right before me. And I remember just being there, and it was windy, and the wind was blowing through my hair, and it was like my cardigan was flapping around. And I just like stood there and just like, and I just felt so incredibly free. And so that's somewhere where I go in my mind at times, where maybe I'm not feeling that freedom in my business, and maybe I'm not feeling that freedom in my life. And to just kind of go there and remember, like, oh, yes, it is there. And and how can you sort of find that serenity in your daily life? And yeah, because, when we make changes, or when we, because even to get that sense of freedom, you may have to make changes or make decisions in your business in order to create that, right? Like, for example, launching a group program, that's a decision you have to make. And that can be really kind of scary. You're like, oh no, I got to do this. And there's 1,001 things to do. And it can, the fear of failure can creep in, or fear of any kind, right? A feeling, and it can be really paralyzing, right? And so I really feel like a way of shifting that fear into like a source of strength can be this remembering the freedom, remembering why you're doing what you're doing, and going to that place and just like, changing your mindset to being like, this is going to give me that. So I need to push through the fear so that I can have that amazing freedom. And I think it's really good to, create a supportive environment around you, have people that really lift you up and encourage you and can help you on whatever is the journey is towards having more of a sense of freedom. And of course, you're not going to be 100% free, but like you can find elements of freedom in everything that you do, right? And when we free ourselves from all of the stuff, all of the crap, we can really open doors to creativity and to confidence. And when we have the creativity and the confidence, we can have amazing ideas of how we can reach that freedom, and get towards that. And so it's kind of a way of really simplifying things that maybe seem so complex and daunting and scary, and it makes it kind of feel a little bit more accessible, because, I think that when we calm down and we can go to that place and we can be in a calmer state, that's when our creativity really flows. And that's when we have these amazing ideas or get these downloads of things. And we also can empower people around us as well, and everybody's on a unique path. And so I think that this really empowers us to find our unique paths to our own freedom. And yeah, so just maybe, take a moment to kind of recognize in yourself and see, what is that freedom for you, so you can go there any of those times that you're kind of feeling fearful, and really acknowledge how far that you've come, right? Really acknowledge that. And just to bring it back to this fear, this quote I love from Yoda from Star Wars, and he says, train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. And I think that's what I did when I had that moment of being like, I don't want to bring project management into my business because, I was so fearful of losing the freedom. I was so fearful of losing um, the amazingness of my business. And I was fearful of bringing in the toxicity of corporate, but I really trained myself to let go of losing that. And then in doing that and going to that freedom place, um, really transformed it in my mind and changed my mindset. And then I became excited about it, right? I was completely able to switch it around and be excited about something and be like, okay, what can I create now with this? And so, yeah. And sometimes I like to look back at that and be like, yeah, I've come a long way. I really want to acknowledge that. And I want you to acknowledge that for yourself too. And, there's something as well with this about letting go of external validation, right? This is you and your unique path and your business. And like we're talking earlier, right? You can create all of this. You have choice within your business to create the freedom and have it look the way that you want it to look. And so we can let go of all of that. And it can be so hard because, there's so many strategies. I remember when I was doing my health and life coaching certifications, and we always had to like meet with other people to practice our coaching. But then we also met with some people to do like part of our business setup, because that was also part of the coaching program. And I spoke with a woman, and she was in marketing when she was in corporate. And she was like, well, I've got like 50 different strategies here, and I'm just trying to figure out, how am I going to do them all? And it was just like, oh, wow. Yeah, of course. Because there are so many strategies out there to how to run your business, how to make money, how to market, how to do your programs, and it can be so overwhelming. And I think that's why, especially people at the beginning of business, have that kind of squirrel mindset, right? They're just like everywhere, shiny object syndrome, because there's so many different things and they all work. They do all work. Everybody has had success in all of those different strategies. And so when we get back to this idea of freedom, sort of letting go of that external, right? So if we can learn these different strategies, and then we get to choose in our business what we want to do, how we want to use them, and really transform them to be aligned with your business values, aligned with your integrity, and aligned with your authenticity of how you want to use those, right? And you can change them and adapt them, which is what I just love so much about that freedom of choice of how you want to do it. And of course, it's good to get advice, and you can tweak things and change things. But really, as you do that, I would advise to, or suggest to make sure that it always aligns with you, and you're not just doing what anybody else tells you. I've seen that with some of my clients. They're just like, okay, I'm going to do this. So this person told me to do this. And they're just kind of like ping-ponging around and doing different things, but never doing it fully, and never actually sitting down and being like, okay, what do I want? How do I want to use this? What do I want to do in my business? How is this going to work for me? Even sales conversations, I used to always get so freaked out about them because you had like this script and like you had to do it exactly like this or else you're not going to make the sale. And it's like, oh, well, I found that like a lot of times that I made sales was just by having a conversation, and people were like, well, what? How does this work? Well, tell me what you do. And then right then and then, like they were like, oh, well, do you do consulting? Can I do a planning session with you? Like, can we do that like later this afternoon? And it was almost like immediate. And it was a conversation. I just had met somebody, we're just having a conversation, and then just kind of naturally happened. And there was no script. There was no sales thing. I didn't take them through the whole process of feeling the pain and They were just like, I feel my pain right now, and you seem like you got the solution. So like, let's go. Yeah. So just, keeping that all in mind. But again, of course, they do work. And if you need guidelines to help get you started, that's great. But yeah, and I see it with, our industry leaders, these coaches, that are 7 figures, 8 figures, multi-6 figures. And they're always, rewriting what they do. They're always changing things, adapting things, taking things into, even like if you do a webinar, there can be a whole process of how you do your presentation. And I've, working with one of my coaches for the last 2 years, that has totally changed, and things have come in and out and changed and adapted. So, but the sort of general like theory, is what you can use, and then how you actually execute it is what you have the freedom of choice to do. So that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Just, that freedom and what it means to me. And I would encourage you to sit down and think about, what does it mean to you? And then how can you use that to run your business so that you can feel that sense of freedom, and to remind yourself of that. Anytime you kind of get bogged down, be like, right, but actually I have the freedom of choice. And if you do get really into a place, think about that moment in your life where you felt just incredibly free. And maybe the next time that you have one of those moments, take a picture of it. Mm-hmm. So then you can actually look at it and be like, oh yeah, there it is. I feel so amazing. All right. Well, I hope that inspired you a little bit to run your business with more freedom. And I can't wait to see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.